Hey everyone, looks like we've got David and Roberto online today, and we're going to run through chapter 5. I've also got some comments about some of the homeworks I've been correcting. All of chapter 2 and 3 should be done now, so you can go back in and take a look at that. I think people did, for the most part, okay. Almost everybody always had something that popped up where they missed the mark, so to speak. I'm going to tell you a couple of things that you need to work on as a general group. One of those is that you should look at your documents before you ever turn them in. Just step back, look at them. And if you've got paragraphs that have unequal spacing in between them, then you really need to work on that. It's almost better if it's not the correct spacing to what the instructions said, but you don't want to have, and I'm going to switch over, you should be able to see a Word document that I've got in front of me here. Hey David, why don't you, or Roberto, would somebody let me know if you can hear me? Make sure we got our audio going.
I can hear you. You're good.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's just say we're on a paragraph. Two things I wanted to point out here. One is, I'm actually going to grab a paragraph. So I'm going to paste a paragraph in here just as text. And do that twice, 3 times, whatever. So we have 3 paragraphs here. What I don't want to see is this. So if you look at this, I've got 3 paragraphs with unequal spacing in between them. It's just bad form. So you should always be looking at what you've got. And if you find stuff like that, or maybe this one's fine, and you know, we've got, you know, this. I had a couple that were turned in that literally looked like what you're seeing in front of you on the Word document here. Your brain should be going, there's something wrong with this. Let me at least match it. I mean, if it was supposed to be single line like this, and both of these were double spaced, that's better than having it mismatched. So work on that. Another thing I wanted to point out was that what you see here in this first paragraph is single spaced lines. And up in styles at the top of the page, you'll notice that there is no spacing, normal, and the difference is, I'm going to just type it down here. So normal style is 1.08 line spacing, which means it just gives a little bit of extra spacing in between each line. And it has 8 points after the end of the paragraph. So you'll notice if I put the mouse cursor right in front of the T here, and I go down one, there is no line in between that. That is end of paragraph spacing. And so that's different than having an extra line in there. And the way we can modify that, other than to put extra lines in there, is I'm going to just highlight the whole thing. And I'm going to go up to paragraph on the ribbon. And I'm going to use the paragraph dialog box. Now I can also go to this little button here, which is line spacing. And you'll notice that there are different line spacings that I can pick from. I can also just say add space or remove space after the paragraphs. I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to go into the dialog box. I'm actually going to pop this up. And you'll notice it says line spacing is multiple and it's set at 1.08. The reason why it says multiple is that, well, don't worry about that, but it's set to 1.08. You could also have done exactly so many points. So you can either pick between points or, or line, you know, a whole number for the lines, one being exactly one line per line. If I had written in 2 here, it's basically the same as double line space. Just do a Control Z. Go back here. The other place you'll notice is spacing after. So each paragraph has 8 points, which is 12 points is a line. So it's not a complete line, but it's part of one underneath the end of the paragraph. I could increase it to 12. That would be the equivalent of having one empty line in between the paragraphs. Or I could put it back to 0 and there won't be anything in between the lines. So those are all things that you should keep an eye on. If you're starting a brand new document and you don't want any spacing, you can just go up here to the top and hit no spacing. And now when I start writing, you know, to apply page, et cetera, and I hit return, it's always going to be exactly one line beneath where you were before. If I did the same thing with normal and hit return, you'll notice there's more of a space underneath that. So those are things to keep an eye on. Any questions? Try to see if I can pull up the chat again. It always closes the chat every time. That way, all right. See if I can keep it open. So that's that. I think that was most of what people were having some issues with. Again, consistent spacing between paragraphs is really vital. Now let's go take a look. This was one of the homework assignments. It was called tabs. And it had to do with setting tabs within different paragraphs. So I took one of the assignments, I moved it around a little bit. This isn't anybody's anymore. I played with it. So a couple of things to take a look at here. If you look down at the bottom 2, you'll see that the spacing is 1 line. And we can confirm this by going up to paragraph. And well, actually it's set at 1.08. So it's normal spacing. Whereas if we go up here and check out what the line spacing is, we'll see it's still 1.08, but each line is being treated as a paragraph and there's an 8-point gap after it, which we don't have down here. So if we look at paragraph here, okay, cool. That one says there is, but there isn't. Look here. Well, isn't that curious? I'm just going to go here like this. We're going to highlight this. We're going to go to paragraph. Going to get rid of that 8 points and hit OK. And notice it will shrink that. I haven't a clue as to why this one is showing those 8 points when they aren't there. So, but the homework assignment, it should have been single spaced without that additional spacing after each paragraph. Now, notice on this line right here, and I should ask, can folks see the screen okay, or should I focus on just the Word document? Okay, so we have at least one request. Let me just change that. All right, so you should be just seeing the Word document now. That should make it a little easier to follow. You will notice that this particular line has got a a tab set at 1 inch. I'm going to remove that just so that it matches what the lines below it are. And it also has this tab at 5.5 inches. I'm going to get rid of that. Just push it out to the end. Now, having done that, what we need to do is make all of these match. I'm just going to delete all the tabs. I'm going to go to paragraph, open it up, which is where we go find the tabs button at the bottom. I know it takes a while to get used to finding tabs. It drives me crazy. It's been in so many places over the years. I'm just going to clear all tabs. Delete them all. I'm going to hit OK. And now we have this nice little messy thing here, don't we? The directions specifically asked that we set this up with 3 tabs in it. A left tab at 1 inch, a center tab, and then a right tab at 5.5 inches. So we're going to highlight everything we want to do that to. We're going to go back into tabs. And we're going to start with a 1 inch left tab, no leaders, and we're going to set it. Now we're going to go to the center. Well, actually, I'm going to go do the other side, 5.5 inches. That'll be the right tab, and I'm going to set that. You'll notice they show up in this dialog box right there. And then the last one, which is in the center, which 6.5 would be 3.25. So we're going to set one at 3.25 inches, and that's going to be center tab. And hit set, and then we have those 3 set, and it's only going to apply to the area that we had selected, which is our first section. And I'm going to hit OK. And the reason why these are not showing up at the very left edge is because there isn't actually a tab there yet. But watch what happens if I just go and hit tab, and then go back and hit tab. So there. We now have 3 tabs set for that section. A left tab, a center tab, and a right tab. This section right here looks to be set up, well, let me not highlight the training. So there. If you look up at the top, we have one set at 1 3/4. And then we have one set at 4, which was what they had specified. They didn't want the February 4th, 14th, 19th, and 26th to be right justified. They just wanted it to be spaced approximately in the correct place. Having a date, right justified doesn't always work, although they did that in the first section. You can, when you're creating your own document, you get to pick which way you want to go. Now, as a reminder, I think everybody got it correct, but if we went to tabs, you should see these 3 set. And if we go to that 3.25, that's where you see this bar designation. And that's what puts a vertical bar that allows you to have a vertical line in the middle of your document so that you can separate 2 different things. So that works pretty good. The only thing I would also do, oops, sorry, cancel, on this one is let's put a space here because we want to pull it apart. Remember, consistent spacing between sections of your document. Up here, there's a line between the workshops and the training dates. And we want the same thing here. Oh, we gotta. Okay, how do we get to that tab box? Good question. So tabs are defined under the paragraph setting. So up on the ribbon, go find the paragraph section and use the expand button, which is that little button on the bottom right of each section. You'll see there's one here for the clipboard, one for the font, one for the paragraph, one for styles. So we're going to click the paragraph one, and that opens, come on, you can do it. That opens the paragraph dialog box. Any of these pop open boxes are called dialog boxes. Now, here's our dialog box. If you look at the very bottom left corner, because you can't make it easy, right? And you're going to click this tabs button, and that will give you your place where you can define or modify your tabs. Now, another way you could find that would be to go up to the tell me what you want to do. And if I just type in tabs, oh, well, that didn't help. Shouldn't have been able to. Well, never mind. Unlike so many other things, you should be able to just type it in there and have it pop up, take you directly to the section that you want to be in. So yes, Roberto, select the paragraph and then go there. So yeah, if we wanted to do it for this one, I'd select that paragraph, then I'd go to paragraph, I'd go to tabs, and you'll see that there's already a tab set at 1 inch, and there is a tab set at 5.5 inches, and it even has the period leader. And the only thing that was missing on this particular one is that it needed to actually have a tab put in at the front of the page. And you'll notice, Word's kind of smart. The software is anticipating what you want. I tabbed on line 1, and I tabbed on line 2, and then it tabbed the rest of the document of that section down because it said, oh, I know what this person's trying to do. So if I didn't want that, if I hit Control Z and did it again, see, it just goes back and forth. There isn't an easy way to undo it. Boy, I messed that one up, didn't I? There we go. Now, you'll notice if you look carefully at this particular section, well, hold on. This didn't do what it was supposed to do. There it goes. I can't answer you why it was doing what it just did. We had already highlighted this entire paragraph. We had gone in and we had set the tabs, and we set them to 1 inch left align, just like we were supposed to do. By doing that, and if you look up at the top here, you'll see, get rid of this. Just want to get rid of that. So this one, and I'm on the graphic software line right now. And if you look up at the ruler at the top, you'll see the left tab marker there. It's just a little L. And it doesn't stand for left. It's just that it's a bracket, that's pointing in one direction. If you look on the other side, the right bracket points in the other direction. Just happens to be that it looks like an L and it's left and all that fun stuff. I should be able to, here sitting at graphic software, to hit the tab button once and have it go completely over to the 1 inch mark. It's not doing that, and I don't know why. But if I hit tab once more, it does, as an entire group. That's an unusual behavior. Just make sure that by the time you're done, it's where you want it to be. You always gotta love it. They'll come up with something new for you every day. Those are the couple of things that I wanted to cover from the homework assignment. Like I said, I did all of number chapter 3. And chapter 3, I think, is the longest chapter. It's got all 7 documents that you have to work on. And if you've been looking at your write-ups in the comments of the homework, you'll notice that each file is broken down individually. And I try to give you feedback on each particular file. 7 for you takes you a while. Took me a while to correct, everybody's 7 different files, but I've done that. Those comments are in there. Luckily, some weeks it's a much smaller load. Okay. I think that's it for that. Let's switch over. I'm going to change the share, go over to a PowerPoint. And we'll back up to start. Hit the old F5 button. Oops, I didn't want that though. I'm not sure I can, well, I have to do this, it looks like in full screen. I'm not sure I can do a presentation not in full screen. There probably is. Well, let's move through it. Hopefully you're seeing the entire document. It's probably been bracketed because your screen's not a widescreen like mine is. I apologize for that. So, Chapter 5, which is our next chapter, has to do with enhancing and customizing documents and applying formatting and inserting objects in your document. Some of you already have experience with this, and others it's newer. We're going to do section breaks, and we're going to do columns. We're going to turn hyphenation on and off. We're going to show you what a drop cap looks like. We're going to talk about symbols and special characters. We're going to put dates and times in. We'll do a little checkpoint. We'll show you how to do some vertical aligning of text, inserting it, formatting images, inserting a text box, drawing some shapes, doing some word art, and creating a screenshot. All right, so when you have a document, and we talked about page breaks last class, and a page break is where you're done with what you want to do, and you want a new page, and you can either insert a new page or you can just do a page break, which does the exact same thing, which gives you a new page. But there are times on one page when you don't want to have a new page, but you need to treat that section of that page differently than you treat others. And I think probably I'll show you an example in a minute, but what we do is we go where we want to in the document and then insert what they call a section break. So you have page breaks and you have section breaks. And a little bit later, we're going to learn about column breaks. So those are the three types of breaks: page, section, and column. The breaks themselves are not normally visible, but I'll show you how you can see where they are soon. If you went up to the layout option on your menu, one of the things you're going to get is it'll show you a place to insert breaks. You can also delete breaks. You get your page, your column. Oops, sorry. That was me. I tried to scroll down the Word document that's not actually there. And you can have section breaks that are continuous, even pages, odd pages, next page, and we'll look at those a little bit. Now, I think the best way, we're going to look at formatting text into columns, which also includes breaks. I'm going to switch back to the Word document because there's nothing like actually looking at it. Okay, so I'm going to go down to this page. You remember, we've got I'm going to go back and just going to put that 8 points back in between the lines. So here we go. We've got 3 paragraphs. We're going to call this the title. But what I want to do is I want this part to be as wide as the page. I want this paragraph to be 2 columns, and then I want to come back to a full width for the page there. So I have 2 different ways that I can do this. Well, the easiest way is to just, again, highlight the area that you want to work with. And we're going to go to Layout at the top. And you'll notice that they have margins orientation, size, and columns. So I'm going to click 2 columns. You could click 3 or left or right or whatever. But I'm going to click 2 columns, and it's going to break that into 2 columns. What you can't see is that it just put a section break right here, and it put a section break right in between the end of this column and the beginning of the next paragraph. If we want to see those, we're going to go back to the Home tab, and under the paragraph section on the ribbon, there's a paragraph symbol. And if we click that, it shows all of the marks for that page. Now let's take a look at those. There's a paragraph mark right here. And there's a paragraph mark right there, but also there is a section break. And that's what breaks it between being a full width and the columns. And then at the end of the columns, there's another section break, which means that we're going to put you back to the normal. And then that's pretty much it. So on this page, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hidden formatting notations. There are 2 section breaks, and the rest are just paragraph marks. And those are just there. If you ever need to find them, just to remember, under paragraph, you're going to click the little paragraph mark, which either shows it or hides it. We're going to hide it now. And, I can go back here and change the format. I could center that section all by itself. I can justify it. I can do whatever I want and set that up. And you'll notice that in this particular case, we've lost the spacing in between here. So I'm going to go back to paragraph. Maybe increase it a little bit more. There we go. If I were to start to type in extra stuff here, I'm going to type in extra words and paragraphs. And what it's going to do is it will continue to balance the left column with the right column. So the more I type, the longer both columns get, or if I delete it out, it would delete it out evenly. But that isn't always the case. I could go right here at the end of this word art, and I'm going to insert a column break. And what that just did was it forced everything from beyond that into the next column. And now if I go back up here and insert another line or two, and you'll notice what it's done is it left this column exactly the way it was because it's after the column break. So it's going to be treating that column completely separate than it treats column number 1. And you have to decide how you want those to look. And if I turn on the paragraph so I can see it, here's the column break right here. Can't really highlight it. It's a hidden item. There it is. So there's the column break. If I delete that, it's going to rebalance those 2 paragraphs. So I'm going to delete it, and it just rebalanced these two columns so that the same amount, more or less, was on both sides. Any questions about that? Okay. I will try to go a little slower. So I'm just going to, come back over here. All right, so we're back to, where we started. And if we want to turn a particular section, it could be more than one paragraph. It could be less than one paragraph. You can pick whatever you want. And I'm just going to I'll do 2 paragraphs this time. So we're going to have a full width at the top, we're going to have full width at the bottom, and the 2 paragraphs in the middle, we're going to make into dual columns. And we do that by going up to layout, columns, set to 2. And what it does is it inserts that section break up here, and it inserts a section break at the bottom. And so Roberto, you want me to go faster or slower? Okay, you got it. So let's go back over to PowerPoint here. Fortunately, there's no easy way to flip back and forth. All right, so we did that. We talked about setting up columns. Now, when you go into columns, you can, there's a more columns option right down here at the bottom. So we selected 2, but I could have also gone down to the bottom of that drop-down menu, and there's a more columns option, which will open this up. I could still select 2. I can literally hit the up and down button to change the number of columns I want. I can add a line between it. See how there's a line on this preview? I can change how much spacing is going to be in between the columns. So if I want the columns to be a little more spread out so there's not a confusion between them, I would increase the amount of spacing. That will automatically change the widths. You figure you only have so much space between the right and left margins. If I make the space in the middle bigger, it's going to make the width of the 2 columns smaller. And then I can apply it to the entire document or this point forward, or just apply it to the area that I had selected in the document, which is the default. Okay. Talked about column breaks. Okay, hyphenating words. When you have a document and you have long words, like as an example, hyphenation, oops, sorry, and you're typing in, a 5-page homework assignment or whatever it happens to be, you're doing an essay report for the 31 flavors of Baskin-Robbins ice cream. I don't know, whatever it happens to be. And Word will automatically move a word to the next line if it doesn't have enough room to include it on the line that you're currently typing on. What this can end up with is some big spaces at the ends of lines, makes it a little more, as it says here, ragged when you're looking through it. One of the ways to get around that is that you can turn hyphenation on. And what that does is when you get towards the end of a word, end of a line, if you have a long word there, it can break it into different syllables and move some of the syllables to the next line. It's not going to do that for short words like the and, but it will do it for things like hyphenation, or you could even do it for uniform, manual, If the word is long enough to have multiple syllables, then it can hyphenate it. And what that'll do is it'll just kind of try to level out the right and left margins without having big empty spaces at the right. The way you do this is, again, under layout, go down from where you had breaks, you'll see that there's some hyphenation. The default is none, but you can also do automatic, or you can do manual. And then they have additional hyphenation options. If you wanted to manually hyphenate, then you're going to literally go and click manual, click yes or no to hyphenate an indicated words. So it's going to look at your document, find words that are potentially, available to hyphenate, and you're going to go through and say yes, yes, no, yes, yes, no, and do that. All right. Oh, shoot, sorry. Okay, there we go. I'm going to flip back over to Word for a minute. So let's just say that we wanted to do hyphenation on this paragraph here. I can highlight the paragraph. Again, it's up here on the Layouts tab in the ribbon bar under Page Setup. Do a down click, and I'm going to do automatic on this one. And you'll notice that it hyphenated columns, it hyphenated margin, it hyphenated increase. So there were 3 words that it chose to hyphenate. And what it does was, if you look along this right edge, it's a little bit more in line. I'm going to undo it, and you'll see that now there are some bigger spaces and some smaller spaces at the end of the line. Anybody know another way to kind of clean up that edge over there? Ooh, Roberto said it, justification. And what that means is, again, highlight the areas that you want and just go to Home and select under Paragraph. You've got left justify, center, right justify, and justify. Sorry, I should say left align, right align, center align, but some of us also grew up calling it justify, and justify by itself would mean to put it from right to left. So when you do that, you'll notice that it basically spreads things out. The only problem is that if you have a word that you're, pick some word here. I misspelled it. Yeah, ignore all. So I got a really big word here, and I just do a regular, not a good example. It didn't force it to do it. Sometimes what you'll end up with is you'll put it right here. There we go. So I put this really big word in a spot where it would force it to leave this really big empty space at the end of the page. And if I highlight the entire thing and try to do justify, look what it does to the top line. So this is an excellent example of where hyphenation would come in, because you really need to break up anti-disestablishmentarianism in order to save that look of that first paragraph. So we're going to go back up, layout, hyphenation, automatic, and it broke it up and just put part of it on the other, and we've solved that problem with the first line. So that's how you do that. If we went down here and we said hyphenation manual, hyphenation is complete. Didn't even ask us. And it looks like it hyphenated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It corrected the hyphenation 8 times. I'm not sure. It forgot to give us any options, because when you do manual, it should have popped up and asked us about which ones we wanted to do. I wonder if we do this. Let me try that on this paragraph, but don't highlight the whole thing. Nope. You got me. Play around with that. It's one of your assignments. While I'm here, so if we look at a paragraph, they have 2 kinds of let me go find it. I always love it when I can't find it. Let's see if it disappeared, because I had it. Okay. There it is. Sometimes when I have shrunk the ribbon, some of the features disappear. So on this paragraph right here, the top paragraph, what I want to do is I have 2 choices. I can do what they call a drop cap, which is right here. It's under Insert Text, and they have drop cap, and they also have in margin. So if I do an in margin, what it means is it's going to take the first letter of that paragraph. It's going to move it out of the paragraph and then start everything pushed in on the margin. So it puts that to the margin. It's used occasionally. It's not as popular. If I do dropped, it does the exact same thing, but it includes it, embeds it inside of the paragraph. And I can do that, for any of these. Of course, they all start with the same letter, so seeing how they're the same paragraphs. So you can do that. It's very common in magazines, and some people will do it in other documents as well. And certainly when you get into different fonts, we just decided to go find some really fancy font. Maybe not Algerian. Ooh, that's a bad one. You notice how this is, it actually, it fails because the dropped letter here isn't given enough space to complete the image for that dropped, and so you end up with it cut off. So that's a really bad, you'd want to try it, decide, ooh, bad one, let's get rid of it. So that's a dropped case. I'm going to flip back over. Any questions on those? So we did that, talked about drop case, drop cap, drop cap. And you can, how many lines do you want to drop, how much distance between it and the text, what font you're using, so you can pick whichever ones you want. Now, inserting symbols, and I'm going to go through a couple of these so we don't have to flip back and forth quite as much. There are times when you have to insert symbols, and they also, this is not for doing formulas. There's a different function for doing formulas. But if you just need to put in a symbol, it could be a copyright symbol, it could be a registered symbol. Maybe you're trying to explain your trip to Japan and you need to put down how much things cost and need to put the yen mark rather than the dollar sign. You know, you've got to, you know, here in Maine, you'll find people who still have names that have some of the French letters that are, and I'm horrible at this. I failed French for like 5 years in a row until they gave up on me. But you know, the accent marks that allow you to differentiate what a particular letter is, and these are all found here under symbols. And we'll look at those in a second. You pull up this box, and you can. There's a bunch of different fonts, and then inside each font they have what they call subsets. Basically, each one of these has 256 characters. And when you scroll down this, you'll see a total of 256. And once you're done, you're going to end up going into a different subset. It'll show you recently used symbols. Each one of these has an ASCII code, and that's what this 00F1 is right here, which you know, goes with this one, which is the small letter N with a tilde, or a tilde, I forget. And then you would insert it wherever you happen to need it. It's going to use the same font size and same font that you would have been using in your document, but it will include the additional characters, whether or not it's an over character, under character, special character, or whatever it happens to be. There is a section of special characters, which is just a much shorter list of the ones most often used. And so instead of hitting symbols, you might hit special characters. There's the registered copy mark, trademark, copyright, certain dashes, paragraph sign, section mark that you would use in a legal document, things like that. And then we're going to look at inserting the date and the time. You would go up and insert, and you'll find the date and time button, which will allow you to do that. There is a drop-down menu that gives you what format you want to use. Or you can also do Alt-Shift-D for the date and Alt-Shift-T to insert the time. A date or time field will automatically update when a document is reopened. So this is important. There's a difference between inserting the date as a static item that never changes. I'm writing a letter today, and I want it to say that this letter was written on March, I don't even know what today's date is, March 26, 2019. When I open that document a week from now to look at it, I want it to still say March 26, 2019, rather than April, whatever it would be a week from now. And so it's important to know whether or not you're putting in the value or a field that's called the date field or the time field, because those will automatically update every time you open it. And there's times you want that to happen, and there's times when you don't want it to happen. So here's an example of all the different formats. You can see times down at the bottom. You can see straight dates, and you have times when you have the date and the time together. You just have to figure out which one you want. If you needed a language other than English, you have it over on the side as a drop-down menu. And right here, you'll see that this is the update automatically. And that's what's important, to make sure that you either have it checked or don't have it checked, depending on your needs. All right, let's flip back over quick. All right. All right, where do we want to be? I'm going to turn this off. So let's just say, Now let's say I want to put the copyright symbol in here. I can go to Insert and then find the symbols option over here. And you'll notice that it's got a drop-down menu. These are the commonly used. I can go to more symbols, or I could have just have hit the symbol button itself. Oh, maybe not. I do have to go to the more symbols. And it's going to open this box up. You'll notice the copyright symbol is right here. And as Roberto pointed out, there is the option to search for them. I'm trying to remember where you find that. I know you can search for it. Where did you find the search, Roberto? I always know I find it, but I can't remember where I find it. Oh, so yeah, not in Word, but in the Windows symbol in your PC. I'll have to go look. Anyway, so in this case, I'm going to insert the character, insert it, close it, and here we have that. Just as an aside, if you're using a symbol a lot, you know, today's weather, 38, and then I want to put in the degrees symbol. There's the little degree symbol. Tomorrow's weather, 55. Now, I can do that, or I can just copy and paste it too. So there's a couple of options there. What else? Dates and times. So right up here, I'm going to change this. I'm going to put the date and the time in. So we're going to go to Insert, like we were, date and time. It's right next to where you'd find the equations and symbols. And if I click date and time, I get a whole bunch of options here. And if I want the date and the time, I'm going to pick this one. And this is where I can do update automatically or not. I'm going to put one in first that's not updated automatically. Ooh, actually, do this even better. Date and time, we're going to include the seconds because I'm mean. And now I'm going to insert it with the update turned on. And if I were to save this, so these are now currently 8 seconds later than the first. 1:51:42. And if I save this, put on my desktop someplace. And I'm going to close it. I'm going to lose the share, but I'm going to open it right back up again. I know you stopped sharing it. All right, so we're back to sharing it. I'm going to go find the one I just had open. And you'll notice now that the time that's showing has been updated. It's no longer the 1:51:42 that we had. No big deal when we're only talking about a couple of minutes. But this is really important. Let's imagine that you wrote a contract or a sales receipt or something, and you sold your car on March 26th to Bob Barker. And a year from now, You know, for some reason, whether it's tax, whether it's the State Department of Motor Vehicles, whatever it is, wants to know exactly when you sold your car, and you open the document up and it says April 5th, 2020, because the date you used automatically updated. So it's important to know when you should use it and when you shouldn't. If it's a document that should be a record, it should not automatically update. On the other hand, if it's a template that you're using to send out little memos to people all the time, and you don't want to deal with having to put the date in each time, then you might want to do that. All right, let's go back over to here. Oops, sorry. Click and type feature. Hover mouse at the left margin between the left and right margins, or at the right margin. When horizontal lines display next to the mouse pointer, double click the left mouse button. So let's go take a look at that. Sorry, we just left it. We're going back. Come on, you can do it. There it is. Oh, never mind. I'm going to don't worry about it. Follow what's in the book, but don't worry about it. All right, quick checkpoint. Consider using the feature to improve the display of line text. So which feature would we use to improve the display of a line? David says B. And David would be correct. This is the first letter of the first word of a paragraph that is enlarged and set into the paragraph. Is that a cap letter, lowered letter, drop letter, or enlarged cap? David thinks it's A, but would be incorrect. Aha, C. It would be a drop cap. That's what you call that. The special character tab is located in which dialog box? Would it be in the paragraph, page setup, the font, or the symbol dialog box? Roberto says D, symbol, and that would be correct. Awesome job. You can insert the date or time as this, as a field, a point, a character, or a paragraph. So we have a field from Roberto, and the answer would be a field. That doesn't mean you have to. It could just be a regular line of text. And in theory, if that line was followed by a carriage return or an enter, it becomes a paragraph. But the correct answer that they were looking for is you can insert it as a field, which is what is automatically updated. All right. So we're going to talk about vertically aligning text. And we would do this by getting into page setup. And then under the page, you have the option of how do you want to vertically align your material on the page. And I'm just going to page align. And what else are we going to have? Oh, and then insert pictures. And yeah, I'm just seeing, making sure we've got everything. That's good enough for now. So we're back over to our friend, this page. So when we want to, I'm just going to grab one of these paragraphs. And I'm going to go down here to the very end of the document, put in a page break, and then we're going to insert this as a sentence, as a paragraph. But what I want to do is I want this to be in the center of the page. So what I can do is I can go to Layout, and I can go to Layout. Why am I missing this? Page setup. Oh, here we go. Page setup. Oh, I hate it when I lose track of where I'm supposed to be here. Hold on a second. Right, we open up page, click layout, page setup. That's where I was. Go to layout, page setup. Oh, well, this is where it's supposed to be. Layout. There we go. So it's under layout, open up the page setup dialog box. I haven't used this but maybe 3 times in my life, so that's probably why I couldn't find it. And then go to layout of the 3 tabs at the top of the page setup dialog box. And then you'll see that you can change how you want to lay it out in the page. I'm going to put it on center. When I hit OK, it moves it down to the center of the page. You'll notice it didn't change it for the other pages. It only applied it to the page that we were on. If this was a new document and I changed it for page 1 and then went on to page 2 would have the same format because it continues whatever page layout that you had the first time. Whew, that was a tough one. Now, I'm going to insert an image underneath this. And we're going to go to Insert. And I can either pick the 2 options I have under Illustrations, Insert Illustrations. One is a picture that I have on my computer, and the second one is an online picture. I don't have a lot of pictures on my computer, so I'm going to select Online Pictures. And because it's Microsoft, it popped up with a Bing image search. I'm going to put in Monticello, which was Thomas Jefferson's homestead down in Virginia. I'm going to find one of these pictures that I like. We'll go with this one. Insert. And it inserts that image directly into my document. So that's how you would insert it. If it was a document, a image file on my computer, I would have to use the regular browse. So I'd insert picture, and it's going to open up a browse. So where did you keep it? I don't know. Not even sure I have, many things on here. Race results. There we go. Race results. Am I on there? There I am, right there. 20th place. Delete. I bike race once in a while. Once you get into these pictures, then you can do all sorts of formatting with them. Up at the top on the toolbar, where the font, where the tabs are, you'll notice that if I've selected an object which has formatting options, it shows up here as a format tab. And if I click that, I get all of the formatting options for that picture. I can crop, I can change the height and width, I can change the position on the page, I can decide whether or not I want to have borders or anything like that. You know, you've got a lot of styles you can pick from. I think I just want to leave it plain for the moment. If it's a really large picture, and I've got, this is true when I'm making maybe a 20-slide PowerPoint or a long document like this, and I keep dropping in these 5 and 10 megabit picture images, and I've got 50 of them. It will overwhelm the computer trying to keep up with the size of your file. And every time you move something, everything else moves. And so one of the things you could do is compress the picture. I click that, it's going to, you know, apply it to this picture or all pictures. If you've cropped the picture, it's going to delete or not delete the areas around it. Because if you think about it, if you only wanted a small part of a much bigger picture, you really don't need the data for all that bigger picture, so you can delete that off as well. And by doing this, I can reduce the size of that. I'm not going to do it right now, I'm going to leave it. I can always reset the picture back if I've totally messed it up. I can change, and there's some artistic effects depending on what I want it to look like. There's, I think Thomas Jefferson's probably rolling around in his grave right now looking at all the things we're doing to his house, but you know, you can choose to see how it might look different. You can recolor it, go with a, you know, here's a grayscale, which is always nice. If you're trying to make it look and print on a black and white printer, this will give you a much better representation of what you're looking at. Sepia is a color tone that was used back in black and white photo days to try to make something have a little color in it. You know, you can do washouts, different other options. You're just going to have to look around for what might make it look good to you. Now, I can also set the transparent color, and I can delete part of that, but we're not going to do that on this particular page. It doesn't apply well. If you look at this, it's like, well, you've got blues and you've got whites. How do I delete the sky as an example? And one of the coolest features, and it's one that you'll have in your homework, is this remove background. So we're going to click that. And you'll notice anything in, I don't know, is it purple, is it red, whatever it is, that's going to disappear and be considered background. Well, at the moment, it's taken way too much off. So what you need to do, and there's nothing short of just playing around with this to find out how it works, I'm going to push this all the way to the edge. Oh, there, I just picked up the trees and this part of the building. I'm going to push it the other way. I got a little more, and then I'm going to push it down to the bottom. Now, see how at the bottom we still have this, the grass at the bottom is disappearing. If you look up at the top under this background removal tool, I'm going to mark areas to keep. I just click that. I get a little pencil. Just make a mark through here, and it keeps it. I'm going to put a mark through here, mark through there. And it's going to get a little more tricky with the, because this was a, there we go. I think that's most of what I wanted. Now I could try to remove these trees as well. Oh, that was too much. I want to keep this part of the house. There we go. And maybe we can get rid of this tree. I don't know. It's weird. Okay. That looks pretty close. Can't tell if I've lost a chimney right there or not. But when I now click out of it, I can keep changes. There I have my background removed image. And one of your assignments will require you to take a background image that you're going to take from an online picture, and you're going to have to take away the sky, basically. The biggest problem that people have had in the past is not spending much time pushing those boundaries out so that you keep the bottom and keep the sides, and then use that and using these mark areas to keep and mark areas to remove. Those are very important to use in order to move yourself forward. Questions? So that was inserting a picture. I think I'm going to put a frame on it. Well, I don't know. You don't need to. I have a lot of wasted white space at the top here, and I can adjust this. And you'll notice that with this on, if I go up to format, there's a crop over here at the side, but I can also get it by doing a right mouse click and then using crop here. When I do that, you'll notice I get black bars on the 4 sides and black corner pieces. And I can remove the extra white space at the top simply by bringing this down. And then clicking out of it, I now have, I've removed that space. I cannot get it back. So don't want to do that. Pretty sure. Oh, well, I could get the background back, but I can't get I cannot get the cropped part of the image out. So crop with care. If you truly mess up, delete the picture, start all over again. How about if we want to insert something besides a picture? Go to a new page here. One of the other options is to insert shapes. And you get a whole bunch of shapes. You'll notice there's a drop-down menu there. And if it's an area, like a square or a rectangle circle, then I can also do things inside of that. If it's a line or some of the really small, narrow things, there's not much you can do inside of it. But let's just pick I'm going to pick a rounded edged rectangle. There we go. And because, remember how I said, if we go to a new page, we had set this page to vertically align in the center. So this page is also vertically aligned in the center. All of these boxes allow us to type things in the middle. This box can have text. It's going to type it in whatever the default font is. Obviously, for a big thing like this, I may need to make the text bigger. Otherwise, it's kind of a waste, very hard to see. Any of these objects, you'll notice again, we have the format option at the top. And I can adjust the the shape fill. So right now it's set to blue accent 1, but I could just as easily make it green, dark green, kind of a gold, whatever color I want. And I can also change the shape outline. So do I want dark blue? It's not showing much because the weight is set to 1 point. To really see it start to pop up, I'd have to give it a bigger weight. Now I have an outline. I can also go to text fill color. Right now it's set to white, but I could do yellow or whatever other color. Text outline, I could give it an outline and give it a little more weight. So I can do all of that inside of one of these boxes. Any questions on that? All right. So going back up to format, there are other things I can do. There are shape effects. I can give it a shadow. I can give it glow. I can give it a reflection like this. I give it the shadows. You know, you can look through and see which ones are what you want it to look like. Give it some soft edges. Give it a bevel. Doesn't show up as much on this one, so that may not be a good case for this particular option. I can give it some rotation. I know it's behind it, but you get the idea, right? I'm going to give it just a bit of reflection. There we go. So all of those things are available, and you're going to be working on those as part of your homework assignment. Before we go any farther, I wanted to show you something different about, I'm going to get rid of the text. And we're going to do shape fill. And you'll notice that if we look down here, there's fill colors, but there's also pictures, gradients, so that I can give it a little bit of three-dimensional by grading the colors from one side to the other. Also give it textures. And I can also put the text in front of that. So if I still wanted to do, Bob's your uncle, then I can still do that, but it just gives it a different color behind there. Oops. One other cool thing with this, I'm going to go to a picture. So I can pick a picture from a file again. I can pick a picture. That's a good one. Pick a picture from online, and kangaroos, do a whole bunch of them, insert, and there's my kangaroos in the picture. So I can do, I can have a picture be the background, and that's a cool way of doing things as well. Insert, go to a new page. Oops. Well, isn't that interesting? It's going to force me to do something. Control X. There. This is usually on this image, you should be able to drop your cursor directly to the side of it. I think what's happened is we've gotten this symbol. Yeah, we want in line with text. There we go. Now you'll notice the cursor is on the right edge of that picture, and now I can treat it and go to the next page. So we did inserting shapes. Let's do some smart art. Now, smart art gives you a bunch of options for putting in things that allow you to enhance your presentation. And it could be lists, could be processes, could be cycles. If you're doing a chart of everybody who works at your place of employment, then you've got a hierarchy chart, that shows who's the boss, who's the middle management, who works for who, and all of this, which is actually important when you get into a larger organization, so people know who they work for. You can do pyramids, matrices, you can pictures, all sorts of different things. We picked a circle. So which one do I want? I'm going to let's do a simple one. So I can do step 1, step 2, step 3. But one of the cool things is I can go into here and I can go and view outline. Okay, where'd it go? Well, and well, I give up. You should be able to do this in outline view, but it's not showing. I'll have to look that one up. You guys would hold on just for a second. All right, I think it was a robocall. Step 4, and then do it all over again. So you can put something like this in there, obviously with more meaning than that. That allows you to work your way around it. That's pretty much in terms of the insert. Oh, one more. One more was a screenshot. So as an example, what we're going to do is if we want to do a screenshot, it shows you available windows that you could clip. And right now it's showing the Zoom window and the Word window, the PowerPoint window that's also open. So if I wanted to just click that, it's going to insert that PowerPoint presentation that we're watching. I'm not sure why it only showed 2 because I've got like 5 windows open on my computer. But I can also, should be able to do a insert screenshot screen clipping, and then go and pick whichever, let me find one. And then, well, didn't like that. Well, sorry, folks. I don't know if it's the Zoom that's given me some issues, but when I hit screenshot, right now you see that there's 2 options. And if I click on one of those, it just inserts that. See, there's the chat window that we've all been using. So I've got one thing from Zoom, and I have 2 PowerPoint presentations open, and it's showing one but not the other one. And I've also got a couple of folders open that should be able to show me the folders. And I've got the browser open, and you try it. It should show you that when you do an insert screenshot, it should show you all of those available as available windows, and it's not. Okay, cool. Go back over to, I think we'll be done in a minute. We did that. We did pictures. We talked about those. We formatting some images. One thing I showed it, it's up there. You'll see that if you have an image highlighted, there is an option over on the rightmost part of the ribbon that allows you to crop the image, but also to just set the height and the width. And one of the assignments asks you to set the width to, 4 inches and the height to 2 inches or whatever it is. And you can actually just type those values in there. You can also open up the size, and it will give you more options as well. I'm going to switch. Hopefully that'll be the last thing we have to switch back over for. We talked about inserting online images. Well, let's put in a text box. We didn't talk about that. But it's basically insert text box, and you get a bunch of different options for inserting a box onto your page. Once it's in there, you can move it around depending on the type of text box. And you have the option just for a plain old square little text box, and then you can deal with it as it goes. Text boxes are considered a drawable item, so you'll have a format option up at the top. And you'll get all of these to pick from. You can also draw a text box, which just is a, drag, click the mouse, drag it, and drop it, and it should give you a text box of that shape and size. Talked about shapes. Looked at all the different possibilities. Word art we didn't look at, but everybody gets that, pretty well. Just make sure that whatever particular one they're asking you for, if you mouse over it and stop, it should pop up with the name of that particular style. So make sure you get the right style. We talked about screenshots. The screen clipping should work. I think it might only work for the place that you're on the one document that you're already in. So this is the default vertical alignment setting for your page. Is it at the bottom, the top, the center, or justified? Come on, where's my chat? There's my chat. Oh, Roberto has to leave. And B would be correct. So thank you, David. Oh. Keep the chat on the top here. This is really annoying. I can't click on the PowerPoint without the chat window disappearing. You can insert this in a document, which is a quote that is pulled from an article. I think I skipped over that. I believe it is a pull quote, but let's check. Yes. And you can do that using, there's a Wikipedia part up at the top. Is one of the places to get those, but you can also get them elsewhere. When you click a shape at the drop-down list, the mouse pointer displays as this. Is it a hand, a minus sign, an arrow, or a crosshairs? And it should be crosshairs. And with this feature, you can distort or modify text to conform to a variety of shapes. And this would be word art, which is different than smart. Smart art are things where you've got those flow charts, and this leads to that, or pyramids, or pie charts, or whatever. Clip art is an image. Word art is where you're actually putting in text, but it allows you a lot more formatting options, and then a text box is just a box with text that you can put into it. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to finish one last couple of things, call it quits. We're back in Word over here. And I'm going to put this back to layout, page setup, top, okay, home. Let's get away from 72 font. So if we insert a text box, gives us these options. I'm just going to click one, and this is where I could put in whatever I wanted it to be. Oops. And this is a good point to also put out, if anywhere in your document you get the little squiggly line underneath something in your document, right mouse click on it and correct the spelling. I don't even know if this is true, but I just need something to put in there. Now, it's trying to tell me in this case, do I want avocado apostrophe S, which is possessive, or do we want avocados as in plural, in which case we should go with one of these? And I'm not even sure which one it is. I'm going to go with avocados. And so this is a text box. We didn't mention this before. I'm going to copy this right out of here, and we're going to go up to the way back up here. We're going to paste it in here someplace. So here's our text box, and I can move it around, and it's going to move the text around with it. And if you notice, there's this little box that shows up on the right of the text box. This would be true for a picture as well. And it's the layout options. Right now it is square, which means that all of the text will follow it around and basically square off around the edges of it. I can also do a tight, which just pulls it in even tighter. I can do through, which won't make a difference here. I can do, what do they call this one? Top and bottom. I can do behind text or in front of text. And you'll notice in this case, I'm blocking what's behind it. So it's not really a great choice if you want something to be seen. I'm going to put it back to in line with text like this. I can move it around to line up best as I can. So that's one of the things. Let's go down and put in some word art. Jefferson's cello residence in Virginia. So I'm going to highlight this, and I'm just going to cut it. Sorry, I want to be back here. And I'm going to insert word art. It's right here. The easiest thing to do is you might want to pick which one you want. I'm going to pick gradient fill, blue accent, one reflection. And because I already have it copied, I'm going to paste. Oh, come on. I'm going to paste it right there. So now I have Jefferson's Monticello residence in Virginia. I might want to shrink the text so it try to makes it into one line. There we go. So I can't do that up here. I couldn't change those kind of font settings, but I can change them if I'm using word art. And there's a lot of word art things that I can do here. You'll notice I've got the format tool available up here. I can do text fill colors, outline text effects. You can actually get the text to bend. So I can go to transform, bend the text. There we go. Now you'll notice in this particular case, I'd probably be better off without the reflection because most of the reflection disappears. So though that's word art, and that'll be something that you'll do a little bit with in the homeworks. So any questions out there? All right, seems everybody's happy. That's the end of today's lesson. I hope you all have a great break. Chapter 5, which is the one we just covered today, has its assignment, and that is due on Monday when we get back. So you do have one homework assignment to work on over the course of the break. Have a great and safe week off, and we'll see you in a little over a week. Oh, hold on, let's see. Question was about the Zoom address. I will change that to match the new one, and I should have done that for today. And remind everybody for next week, I was actually in the new one up until just before the class started. Nobody was in there, and I figured I'd come over here and check, and I found a few students in the older address, which is the one in the syllabus. You should all have gotten an email after the last class that gave you the account, the session number for the new one. But if not, before I even leave, I'm going to go do that right now. We'll get the correct link in there so that it will open the correct session in Zoom for you, and then I'll remind everybody by sending that out via email as well. If there's anything else, have a great week, and we'll see you in April. Thanks.